Hello everyone, welcome to ABC Interactive English. I'm Mike.
I'm Rainbow.
And it's day 2 of our look at Uluru, more than just a rock. Yesterday, we learned about some of the cool things that you will see in Uluru, in the outback of Australia, where this amazing rock lives. We learned about how big it is and also about how it changes colors through the day. But this got me to thinking about other landmarks around the world that are big rocks.
Ooh, what
like
other
Uluru.
big rocks?
Well, there's one that I saw in the news recently. It's called El Capitan. I mean, just the
Is it in South Africa?
The captain. No, I think I know it's in Yosemite National Park in America, and it was in the news because a young kid climbed it in one day with his or her dad. But anyway, it's an amazingly large rock, and you can see why for climbers it's very interesting, because it's basically just a wall of stone that goes up hundreds and hundreds of feet. But it's really very natural. It's just one of those things that you find when you're hiking around or what. Oh my gosh, look at that, an amazing giant rock that just rises up above the land. And of course, another place that people might know or might have seen is a rock, and it's actually called the Rock of Gibraltar, which is down there in southern Spain, in that narrow part where Europe and Africa almost touch. There's a place called Gibraltar, which is controlled now by the British, and above the little town there is a giant rock as well. I think monkeys live on top of that rock.
Would you want to climb those rocks?
Depends how hard it is or how much time
How
it will
dangerous
take.
it would be.
But it's interesting because a lot of these places, they're called rocks, but there'd also kind of be mountains or hills.
Yeah,
right?
they're more like mountains.
Yeah, a little bit. But there are some other very famous rocks, and often people do build things on them, right? There's that famous Sugarloaf Mountain by Rio, and they've built a cross, a big statue of Jesus on top. But there are these incredible things that nature has provided for us, places we can go, we can climb them, we can look at them, we can visit them, and of course, through history, a lot of people, a lot of different cultures have put magical powers onto these rocks and all sorts of interesting traditions. So we're going to find out more about how important Uluru, this rock in Australia, is to the Aboriginal people, because as the title says, it is more than just a rock.
Uluru is very important to Aboriginal Australians. They believe their ancestors created the rock and the land around it. They also believe Uluru is alive and home to their ancestors' spirits.
All right, so yesterday we kind of learned about Uluru as a rock.
Just a
A
rock.
big piece of stone sitting out there in nature. Now we're going to learn about how important it is for people in a cultural way or in a historical way. As it says, Uluru is very important to Aboriginal Australians.
Ooh.
These are the native people of Australia. In America, we might call them Native Americans or American Indians. In Canada, we call these people First Nations people. And here in Taiwan, when we talk about the tribes of Taiwan, these are the Aboriginal people. Generally, when you see that, you're talking about the people who have lived on that land for tens of thousands of years. Before explorers and people came to settle the land, these people were there a long, long time ago. And so for Aboriginal Australians who've lived on this land for thousands and thousands of years, Uluru is very important. Here we learn how and why. They believe their ancestors created the rock and the land around it. That's amazing.
That's a beautiful story.
Yeah, Aboriginal Australians have a lot of belief in the spirits in the natural world around them. Animals have spirits, plants, trees, rocks, and these spirits all sort of sing songs and create the culture and the history and the story of the people. So of course, if you have this amazing rock in the middle of your country, you're going to think that's a pretty special place. and our ancestors have been worshiping it for many, many generations.
And the ancestors are the people that came before us. These are our grandparents, our great-grandparents, our great-great-great-great-grandparents, the Aboriginals, the people who were in our country before we were here. Those people that are the generations above us. Now, if we were talking about the generations after us, we call them our descendants. So ancestor is before and descendants is after. A-N before, D-E-S, this is down or under. So you can remember ancestor is our grandma and grandpa and those people before us. So if people have been worshiping this rock for generations and generations, then this rock is something that connects us to our ancestors and our history.
That's right. And ancestors, we usually use that for people in your family that lived a long time before you were born. It would be unusual to say, oh, my grandmother is my ancestor. Maybe your great-great-great-great, someone you've never met who died hundreds of years or maybe, 50 years before you were born.
Ancient.
You might have an old black and white picture or maybe just a story from your family history. This is going back many years, many generations. And we also had this verb to create. To create something is to make something, especially for the very first time. If you're an inventor, you will create a new machine or some kind of new device. Artists and writers will create new songs and new stories. You're not copying it, you're not taking another idea and sort of changing it a little bit. No, it's all from your imagination. It's all being made for the first time, probably with your hands and with your creative spirit, right? We have that adjective creative. That is the idea of making something for the first time.
These are the Aboriginals, also believe Uluru is alive and home to their ancestor spirits. So that Uluru rock is not dead, it's living. And they believe that the grandparents and those people that came to Australia live inside of the rock.
That is absolutely amazing. So for them, this rock is not just a giant piece of stone just coldly sitting there. It's alive.
And you can communicate with it.
Incredible.
If something is alive, that means it is living and not dead. It is present and it is something that's breathing. It has thoughts. It has a mind and consciousness. It is living. So when we talk about people or animals or insects or organisms that are alive, those are all things that are part of our earth that are still here. They are not dead. They're still here. And many people even will say that spirits are still alive as well because they can continue to communicate with them.
That's true, absolutely. But of course, with spirits, we're kind of moving from the world of science more to the world of religion or something like that. A spirit is kind of like a soul or a ghost or something like that. The idea here, of course, is that when you're alive, of course, you're a body, you got blood, you got oxygen going on, but there's that life inside of you, that thing that disappears when someone dies. And some religions, of course, will say that spirits go to heaven, they go to special places, something happens to them. Other people might believe that spirits live around them. You can't see them, but it's like the idea of the person, the presence of the person, the mind of the person.
You can feel them in the air.
Still around you in some kind of way, but of course, not in a way that we can really measure with science, because this isn't science. This is more into the area of religion. All right, let's take a quick break, and then we'll be back with more from Uluru.
In the 1930s, visitors started coming to Uluru. Soon, it became a popular spot, and many visitors climbed up the rock. That made the Aboriginal people sad and angry. However, their pain is now over. In October 2019, Australia put a new rule in place. Visitors couldn't climb Uluru anymore. That's good for Aboriginal Australians and for Uluru.
Okay, so we're going to go into the story and the history of the ancestors that came to Uluru. In the 1930s, visitors started coming to Uluru. Soon, it became a popular spot, and many visitors climbed up the rock. that made the Aboriginal people sad and angry. Now, the Aboriginal people, of course, we know are the original people who lived there, but when all these other people came here, that means that they would be interacting with the spirits of the ancestors. And these are foreigners, so the Aboriginal people didn't like that.
It's the same way that often when you go to an old church in Europe today, you're asked to be very quiet.
You have to be respectful.
That's right. You're asked to not take pictures and things like that. But back then, in the 1930s, when Uluru was known as Ayers Rock, these tourists, often white people from, Europe and places, they came there. They didn't understand or really care about the Aboriginals' feeling and culture and traditions, so they would climb the top of this rock, which was very disrespectful for the Aboriginal people. But of course, it's a beautiful spot, and when you go to somewhere like that, you might think, hey, if we climb up this spot, we can see many other places around. True, but you still have to respect what the local people, what the local culture would want you to do. When we talk about a spot, it's basically just a place, a location, somewhere where you will go, somewhere where something will happen. You're not really using a special word, you're just saying here. In other words, this spot. When you go to have a picnic, you'll look for a spot in the park that has nice grass, maybe under a tree. If you're in a crowded place, you might have difficulty finding a spot to sit, for example, in a crowded movie theater or something like that. It's just a place where you can sit, where you can do something, where you can be. Back to the article. However, their pain is now over. In October 2019, Australia put a new rule in place. And it might have been around that time that officially they no longer called it Ayers Rock, they called it Uluru. So they did this to ease the pain of the Aboriginal people. Now, pain talks about suffering. Things that hurt you will cause pain. Of course, it can be physical pain that you feel on your skin or in your brain and your body. If you cut yourself, if you poke yourself with something sharp, if you burn yourself, whatever, you will feel pain. But we can also, of course, talk about emotional pain. That's what we're talking about here. When someone teases you, makes fun of you, breaks your heart, laughs at you, is mean to you, that will also cause pain. It won't burn you or cut you, but it will cause you to be sad and to be hurt and angry and upset because no one likes to be in pain of any kind. It's just not nice.
That's right. Visitors couldn't climb Uluru anymore. That's good for Aboriginal Australians and for Uluru. So finally the government stepped in, and I'm really glad they did, because once they changed that name, it kind of reclaims it back to the Aboriginals, saying that it is going to be our sacred rock again, and our ancestors can be alive and well and respected there, and I think that's the right way to go.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's good for people to learn about local cultures and learn how you respect them. And also, even though it's a rock, having thousands of tourists climbing up and down it every day, that's not really good for it. I mean, look at another famous landmark here in Taiwan, Yelio, right? With the beautiful Queen's Head up there on the coast. I think tourists used to be able to touch it, and now it's getting smaller and smaller and being damaged, and it might actually fall over one day, so that's too bad. But it is really important to protect nature and protect these beautiful landmarks, both for cultural reasons and also so that in the future generations will be able to appreciate and enjoy them like we can today. So there you go. Go out there, explore the world, learn about new cultures and places, but always respect the way the local people want you to enjoy them, because it's their place, not yours. We're just visitors. Take care, everyone. Take care of yourselves, each other, and the world in general. We'll see you back here sometime very soon. Until then, goodbye from Uluru.
Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Uluru is very important to Aboriginal Australians. They believe their ancestors created the rock and the land around it. They also believe Uluru is alive and home to their ancestors' spirits. In the 1930s, visitors started coming to Uluru. Soon, it became a popular spot, and many visitors climbed up the rock. That made the Aboriginal people sad and angry. However, their pain is now over. In October 2019, Australia put a new rule in place. visitors couldn't climb Uluru anymore. That's good for Aboriginal Australians and for Uluru.
Hi, I'm Tina. 我们来看这一课的重点单字。第一个 create 动词创造、创立。Diana created a book club at school. Diana 在学校创立了一个读书会。下一个单字 alive 形容词活着的。Luckily, we're all still alive after the big earthquake. 幸运的是，在这场大地震后，我们都还活着。下一个单字 spirit 名词灵魂。Do you believe that the spirit lives on after death? 你相信死后灵魂还继续存在吗？ Live on 指的是持续存在。最后一个单字 pain 名词伤痛。It's a story about the pains and pleasures of marriage. 这个故事是关于婚姻的痛苦与快乐。接着我们来看重点文法。第一个 A is home to B. A 是 B 的所在地、居住地。Home 的前面不加任何冠词哦，而且要注意介系词的用法。这里用 to 来接后面的人或事物。我们来看看这个例句。The lake is home to many swans. 这座湖是许多天鹅的栖息地。下一个文法 climb up 攀登、爬上。Climb 是爬、攀登的意思。我们来看看这个例句。Jack climbed up the tree and saved the cat. Jack 爬上树拯救了那只猫。最后一个文法 put something in place 让某事物运行。In place 指的是准备就绪。我们来看看这个例句。The engineers spent a lot of time putting the new system in place. 工程师们花了很多时间让新系统上线。以上就是这一课的重点单字跟文法，我们下一课再见喽，拜拜。
Hey everyone, I'm Jamie.
I'm Josh.
And today we're playing a game called Word Drop, where we each have 3 cards with words or phrases on them that we have not seen yet, and we're going to try to work them into a conversation as casually as possible. So are you ready, Josh?
I think I am.
All right, you can start.
Okay, let's have ourselves a conversation. So, I've just recently moved into an apartment. And it's my first time actually living in a place just by myself. Normally I have housemates, but I think I've found since living alone, I'm actually enjoying the peace and quiet, although sometimes I hear some strange knockings or sounds and things like that. I think it might be a spirit.
Wow, that's pretty scary. I would be very scared to find out that there's a spirit or some sort of ghost or monster in my house. Yeah, that's pretty scary. I've heard of people who can kind of communicate with spirits. I'm not one of those people, but I wonder if maybe they're not so scary, right? Maybe they're just trying to talk to us, communicate with us. Maybe they miss, the feeling of camaraderie and just miss, human life and the world. And yeah, maybe they just want to feel alive.
Yeah, totally. And I think it's strange how we think just because it's a ghost, it's automatically threatening or trying to be a bad ghost. There can be good ghosts as well. I mean, if there can be good people, bad people, good animals and bad animals, why can't there be good and bad spirits too? So I'd like to think that maybe it's a good spirit and potentially just reminding me that I've run out of milk or something like that. So I'm happy it's there because it allows me to create a nice place to live.
Oh. Yeah, maybe they are like a helpful ghost like Casper the Friendly Ghost, right? Or other ghosts who just want to make friends or help you in some way. But I wonder if some ghosts, are very sad and maybe they're in a lot of pain.
That would be very unfortunate. Hopefully they're not, or hopefully they have ghost bandages in the other realms to fix that up. Then again, there's all sorts of different kinds of pain, but I don't think we should get into that. We should probably keep it talking about these ghosts, and I just really hope that it could even be coming from downstairs, so I just hope that it doesn't climb up into my room.
Oh, yeah, I hope not either. Like, that would be pretty bad. I think ghosts, usually in the movies at least, they live in houses. But I suppose they could be other places, right? Like maybe they could be in the woods or, I don't know, in the ocean maybe. Or other places, maybe even like in a cave, you know? Like maybe the cave is home to many ghosts.
Yeah.
Right?
We just have to share these places with them.
Yeah, I guess so.